Welcome to the December 6, 2018 business meeting, and Commissioner Schrader is on the phone, so I'll turn it over to Don to take the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have County Counsel Stephen Madcore here this morning, and serving as your clerk to the board is Mr. Kevin Moss. I will start with the roll, and I think I'll start with Commissioner Schrader on the phone.
Here.
Okay. Commissioner Humberston?
Here.
Commissioner Fisher?
Here.
Commissioner Savas?
Here.
Chair Bernard?
Here. Please join me in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, first off, we'll start with citizen communications, and I'm always challenged on names. Let's try this one. Here, what do you think that is?
Ciaran Conley.
Very close. That's Kieran.
And last,
Kieran.
Kieran.
Kieran. Same as the K-I-E.
all right.
Just the Gaelic spelling.
And last pool, you go ahead and join them. Thank you for tell us who you are and where you're from.
Sure. Good morning. My name is Kieran Connolly. I'm an attorney with the Ball-Janik firm in Portland, and I'm here this morning on behalf of BNRG Renewables, a solar company that is building, already in the process of building one, and has a second development permitted here in the county, and is interested in entering into a payment in lieu of tax agreement for each of those establishments. I understand that you all have been briefed on the basic nature of these agreements, and I understand that there was not very much interest in creating a new program for applicants to apply, but given that these two projects are already underway, there's no land use question here. They're already permitted. One's under construction. The other will be complete before the midpoint of next year. I'm here today to ask you all to enter into a pilot agreement for these two agreements. I've previously sent you a letter sort of outlining the plan. In general, these are just a question of whether the county would like to be guaranteed a certain amount of tax revenue from these two establishments, or if they would rather be subject to the whims of how the state central assessment values those projects. And in general, what that means is that there's a higher initial valuation that slopes down over the ensuing years, resulting in lower tax payments later on, but that sort of question, that uncertainty for everybody involved. The number, the amount of tax is set by the state at a flat rate per megawatt of current, and that's $7,000 per megawatt of current. That number, I think, was chosen to try to even out the tax amount, so it's not supposed to be a tax incentive or a tax disincentive one way or the other. And the numbers, we've had an analysis done for these two projects by the firm of Duff and Phelps, and they conclude, as we do, that there's a slight benefit to the county in terms of the dollars coming in by entering into these agreements. But that's the basic pitch. Do you have any questions for me about these projects or the nature of a pilot agreement in general?
No, we don't have any questions. Go ahead.
I would just say this, that if you want to resend that to me, and I'll see how it reconciles with what we've been presenting with thus far. But we did have a work session about it, and I think I had everything before me. But if I want to just double check and make sure what you just referenced in your comments today, that indeed is something that math is the same. I just want to make sure it reconciles.
Sure, and I have a copy of the excerpt of the report, or the report itself, here with me today, if that would be helpful. And I'm happy to leave that with you, or to
Leave with the clerk. Sure.
Great, I will do that. Beyond that, the only thing I'd like to make the commissioners aware of is that there is a time sensitivity to these projects. It would need to be agreed to before the end of the year in order to be effective for the next tax year. And if it weren't if we weren't able to reach that agreement before then, it sort of destroys the incentive because the initial assessment tax payment is always the highest.
So I was not at that work session, I believe I was at. Yeah, I was in China, so Ken wasn't either. So right now, it would be handled like personal property tax. So you, at the cost, you pay for it, and it depreciates over time. The equipment depreciates over time, and so what you're suggesting is that right now, it's just a set amount versus the personal property tax and then a reduction over time of the value.
Generally correct, although the state uses a mix of both the cost-based valuation and the income-based valuation, emphasizing different portions in different years. My conversations with them, if they're not willing to say exactly what they're going to do in any given case because of the vagaries of valuing projects. But that's why we hired somebody to approximate that.
And I'd say that's our challenge because there's some confusion exactly how this is going to work. And I don't know if we want to get ahead of ourselves. And, yeah. Okay. So, we'll look into it a little bit more. The end of the year's not far, though.
It's not. That's why I'm here this morning, and I'll be back next week if necessary.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Les.
Good morning, Les Poole. I live in Gladstone. As always, I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Couple of subjects. I'll try to stick to two. One is that we were seeking help for the Lions Club for delivery of the Christmas baskets and Christmas boxes this Saturday, and that all came together. Norlift is providing a lift truck. I started my material handling career and get involved in transportation at Norlift. Pendleton Woolen Mills has offered their facility on McLaughlin Boulevard, and so 450 folks are going to get food and Christmas presents delivered to them, and you can bet I'll be there. AMR stepped up and did everything they could to try to create the space to make it happen, but with their business, they just couldn't. But I want to thank them for all their efforts. And I remember saying last year how I could quote the chair here, and this is a compliment to AMR, that as long as he's chair, AMR will have the ambulance contract in this county. I've had personal experience with AMR, and I'm just really impressed, and I can't say enough good things about them. Now, I could talk about tolling next, and I don't have anything good to say about that. Tolling, like anything, is a tool. If the county is going to replace or upgrade or replace our ferry, it can be 15, 20 years down the road, and you need to toll some or all of it to finance and pay for that. Those type of necessary things typically are accepted by the public. So why all the resistance? Why is Les Poole a co-petition on a statewide measure to require a vote on what's going on? For those who don't know, it's a pretty simple answer. They want to charge you to drive on the freeway. They want to charge you more during peak hours. The more congested it is, the more the time frame that peak hours grows. In other words, over time, the freeways are getting so congested that it's going to be prohibitive for us to drive on them. So we'll spill over on the side streets. It's not an answer. I can't even begin to imagine what Highway 99 tunnel will be like as people avoid the toll on 205, which desperately needs help. So this transportation quagmire we're in is not going to be solved by the state charging us tremendous amounts of money with a vague picture, very vague picture of where the money's really going to go. I'll close with a third subject. I apologize I couldn't stick to two. I want to thank the folks that helped arrange last Thursday's evening meeting. I've been a proponent of it, real advocate of it. It was something Chair Savas brought up 5 or 6 years ago, and at a time when we really needed more transparency and more citizen involvement, that's what it created. And I would I would invite anyone who's watching right now to go back and watch last week's Citizen Communications. And what you'll see is folks having a chance to come in here and bring real live problems to you. And the issue with the hemp and marijuana was troubling, but it was so great that those folks had an opportunity to come in and talk about that. So let's make evening meetings a monthly event. Thank you as always.
I want to add that, and I can't say that I don't always disagree with you. I often do. In this specific issue, I do on tolling.
Right.
You know, I think that I'm very concerned about tolls pushing drivers off the freeway into the neighborhoods. Ken and I had an opportunity to drive towards Estacada and then up through Sandy. I was shocked how many cars there were. I had not been out that way that early in the morning. It was amazing. And then yesterday, I went over to Wilsonville by the airport there, and I was amazed how many cars were there now. You know, I think the tolling will create a greater problem unless they use that money to build capacity. I would support it, but social engineering is what it really is to toll unless we change how people work in this country, 24 hours a day, shifts or whatever, I don't think you can do that without forcing people in the neighborhoods. But we need to spend the money specifically where it's collected to expand 205 and the bridge. So I totally agree, and I guess ODOT today is going to be talking, possibly making a decision on whether to move forward or not. I'd like to talk to you about how a ballot measure would affect that. I haven't really looked into that, but there are some things that ballot measures don't necessarily stop things from happening. So I'll talk to you about that. I know.
Could I add real quickly, there is an article in the Clackamas Review about tolling. It references the Abernathy Bridge, our most famous choke point. Thank you again.
Paul? Yeah, I'll just say what the OTC is proposing, and they're going to be pitching. I think it's about over 12 pages, or 24 pages. So I would encourage people to look at that, and because there's things that get easily in the media or ourselves even here today interchange and mix and confuse, and that is that they're I believe talking about tolling the 205 bridge to build and expand the 205 aspect, and then at a future date, years to come, this value pricing model, which is I think we have concerns about, greater concerns about, because it's, instead of being one geographic area affected, it'll be a large portion of the metropolitan area that's affected and more diversion. But either of the two methods will create some diversion, which we're already concerned about. And the growth you spoke, I guess the results of the traffic you spoke to going out from Estacada along to up to the mountain, that's just the impacts of growth. This area is, all of our local rural roads that were just farm roads are now essentially de facto major arterials for people going back and forth to work.
Yeah, I used to have employees who lived out in Estacada and in Sandy who drove in. I don't think they'd be doing that today. That's one heck of a drive. Anyway, thank you. Appreciate it. And Brainerd Bauer? Oh, Redland traffic. It's funny, Ken and I just drove through that the other day, and he said, this is where they'd like to see it slow down.
Yeah, that's the idea. And the slowing that we've had has really helped. It has definitely helped. And I think even the accident issues, I haven't seen the data, but I suspect it substantiates it. On the other hand, as you all know, I had asked for it going down to 35 and it be appealed to the State Safety Board, and I'm still disappointed that hasn't happened. So part of my testimony is just to ask for that again. So I could read this or leave it for you to read. But
Well, you're welcome to take some highlights.
okay, let me take a couple of highlights. You know, one of the points I had, number one, was dictating to Redland a three-way stop at Redland Road and Fisher's Mill. You know, I believe it to be wrong. And I think there's quite a bit of community like, wow, where'd this come from? And it's the dictation part. So I go on to a few points of dictating to us. You know, dictating is disrespectful to Redland. Dictating because you have some more money to spend, right? I don't know what the motivation is here. Failing to pursue fully a 35-mile-per-hour speed zone in the commercial zone and school to the State Safety Traffic Board, or I forget the exact terminology, but we have the opportunity to do that. I think it's probably been a year now. We could go back and say, hey, please make it 35. And if it doesn't, if we do not get that, we can go to this to the board, which is an independent group. The state has told me that, and ask for 35. Have them review it, because speed and reaction time is key. I mean, it's everything we've seen so far is. I mean, if you drove through it, you perhaps get a perspective of that. We had a traffic feedback sign put in. In the past, I was told by traffic engineering that it doesn't work. But yet the consultants say, well, the statistics say it does work. Now we have one at coming eastbound, and so far it's pretty recent. The evidence shows it's really helping. And, you know, so the suggestion would be put one in going westbound. But I mean, look at the data. I'm sure the data would substantiate it. I was actually surprised. I was told, well, watch the brake lights. And oh yeah, everybody's just braking as they hit that sign. So I don't have the speed data on it. You know, even the signs we've paid for as a community do slow down to remind people. You know, it helps me, and a lot of people have come and told me how it helps remind me. So it's all connected to that reminder. You're always going to have others, but we're talking about affecting behavior long term. Asking for a holistic plan that grows services in Redland, and this is really key. This is really fundamental to this. Is how can we look as a community at the services we have right now, and the Redland store is probably the most vulnerable, and actually achieve a growing services rather than an interference to any chance of that happening. I mean, it's really fundamental to preserving that. And certainly traffic safety needs to be integral to that, but just as I said in the last part, please do not move forward on a poorly conceived, almost panic-like idea of a three-way stop without first further requesting a 35-mile-an-hour commercial zone, adding speed feedback signs both directions, and engaging the community in smart, incremental, regional intersection improvements. The needs are far greater than just Redland Road and Fishers. Thank you.
All right, Ken?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions on this. Please do not take these questions as advocating for something, but I want your opinion on it.
Yeah, thank you.
My initial reaction to a three-way stop sign was it would be helpful to the store, because if people have to stop, they're more likely to go into the store, and you don't have somebody making say a left-hand turn into that store on a through traffic lane, because they would have had to stop in the first place. Mm-hmm. So I'm a little curious as to why not having a three-way stop sign there is you don't like.
You know, the analysis of this is something that we should be doing as a community. And the complexity of adding it, once we get down to logistics of it, I'm expecting are going to be a ripple effect. And we should be very careful about that. We expect backups because of the stop to be significant at times, and we don't understand, I certainly am not going to say I understand what the dynamics of that will be. Improving, you know, people do a right turn, they make a false right turn from Fisher's Mill at the store, causing a blind spot there. I mean, that's an area of improvement. Yeah. It's on my list here.
If I'm hearing you correctly, mm-hmm. It's not that you necessarily would oppose a three-way stop, but rather the community should be engaged in the process before any final decision is made on it.
Absolutely, the community should be engaged in it.
Okay.
You know,
which I agree with.
And at this point, we're being told this is going to happen. We're being told, okay. Point blank. And we have incremental things that we've already done that we can continue to do that are really substantial in changing behavior. If we have a 35-mile-an-hour zone there and we have signs reducing speed, now law enforcement can actually sit there and catch the few that think, hey, it's country, I can drive any speed I want, and affect behavior. And that behavior is broader than just that one intersection.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, it helps the broader safety corridor.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
yeah, thanks for your interest.
I don't know the specifics on this, and neither you or I are probably professionals about this, or engineers, I'm sure. I just want to cite an example, and that is basically my message here today is that give some credence and value to the traffic engineers for what they do and their experience in trying, and also the regulatory environment that they have to work within. An example of that was Monday night, in a positive way, at our Region 1 Act, ODOT was made a presentation on one of the bottleneck projects, basically an auxiliary lane, call it Ox Lane. There's an acronym for it. And when they proposed this years ago, there was a lot of pushback that it wouldn't work, or, you know, you're adding capacity and it'll just fill up, and, you know, and I can cite a number of examples. But the good news story out of all this is that they, you know, through the long and short of it is they actually did the project, and the results were substantially better than they ever even dreamed. And so I have, coming from somewhat of that world, but not in the civil engineering, but more in mechanical engineering, I have an appreciation for what, you know, that input is and that skill set is. And I propose, or if you have not already, you know, at least talk to those folks and see what they've done and go into the thinking, because in this kind of a setting it's very difficult to get, you know, we don't have the time or the data, and we're not prepared to respond, and we're not, you know, suited to respond. We're just not those professionals. But I would work with them as best you can, and go in there with a mindset that they have a regulatory environment they work in, and they have a lot more successes than they have failures. So. And sometimes things are incremental. So sometimes things are tried, and we'll see how it goes. So there's no permanence in this. So I wouldn't get too worried. But I don't know the thinking of how they got there. But please talk to them first and let me know how that goes, or I'll ask them to give me an update on how that goes. And I appreciate you bringing it to our attention. Public safety, especially on the roads, for you is personal, and for me is personal. So I understand your passion. I appreciate you holding us accountable and coming here and speaking to that.
No, I appreciate your interest. You know, I come from an engineering background myself. I do appreciate the specialties. You know, traffic engineering, while I disagree strongly with and even the Commission's willingness not to step in to appeal the 35-mile-an-hour concept, you know, they have been constructive in a lot of dialogue, despite, you know, fundamentally my apology for having to be so in the face about this topic because of how personal it is and how important it is. And it's a friction that I think they've dealt with remarkably well.
So we have a lot of people in the audience waiting for other things. So thank you for coming. We did have a meeting. You were out of town at the time.
Yes.
Don or Dan can probably update you on that information.
I've got a note from Mr. Besner, and he will follow up.
Okay, we'll follow up.
We're planning on that, but
Wait.
But my understanding is it's basically we will do this. No community input. So that's the part that's the reason I bring it to your attention.
All right, thank you.
One is, don't apologize for coming here and telling us what you consider are important issues to your community. You don't owe us an apology at all. And then driving those roads repeatedly myself, when you have your discussions with our traffic folks, where Henrici comes into Redland, when you want to make a left turn, being able to see to the right is very difficult. So a realignment there, and also on where Fisher's Mill comes in, same issue.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that would help if there's any way of doing any kind of a realignment so that you can see both ways when you enter Redland Road.
I completely agree, and there are more substantial opportunities there than you may realize.
We own that road? It's not an ODOT road?
No, there are roads.
No, they're county roads, but ODOT has to buy in on the speed issue, and I'm not quite sure how far the regulatory
I
side
know
of that
for
goes.
Lake Road, we tried for years to lower the speed on Lake Road, and no matter what we did, we couldn't, and then I think after I left, they lowered it. Anyway, Thank you.
But there is always that appeal to the safety board.
Yep.
So that's just the county.
And that's what we did.
Yeah, but here we didn't do that, and that's what the county can request. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So that's it for the citizen communication. We have some other citizens who want to communicate on the hearings, public hearings we have, and also some on NCPRD. So we'll go to those people when it's appropriate. So we have some public hearings, and Don?
Certainly, yes. We have a number of public hearings this morning. Most involve boundary change proposals, and so we will start with the first public hearing to consider a board order for boundary change proposal number CL 18-004. This is annexation to Clackamas River water, and we have our boundary change consultant, Mr. Ken Martin, here to explain this one for you.
This is an annexation involving a piece of property that's in the Clackamas Town Center, just a small piece that, for whatever reason, didn't get included in the district, and now they want to include it in a larger development proposal around the center there. The district has the services available, and we'd recommend approval.
Okay, so do any commissioners have require any clarification on this specific one? So I'll open the public hearing and ask if anyone would like to testify on this matter. I do have a card from somebody that mentioned they might. Cosette Tran Cathy. Okay, you're good. All right. So I'll open the public hearing. Yeah, I already did. I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the board order for boundary change proposal CL 18-004, annexation to Clackamas River water.
Second.
Been moved and second that we approve a board order for boundary change proposal CL 18-004, annexation Clackamas River water. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Aye.
Next.
Aye.
Okay.
Oh, Martha, yeah.
Yes, good.
I'm putting it on mute because it's been somewhat difficult to find a really quiet place. But I'm aye. Okay.
Okay.
I'll put it on mute.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
All right, the next hearing involves a board order for a boundary change proposal CL 18-005, annexation to Clackamas County Service District Number 1. And again, Mr. Martin is here for this item for you.
This is a single-family property that needs to have sewer service. I believe it's a failing septic tank, and the district has the services available through WES, through that contract between WES, Tri-Cities, and this is within the city of Happy Valley. Their city has acceded to this annexation as they must by law, so we recommend approval.
Okay. I'll open the public. Does anyone have any clarifying questions? These are usually fairly straightforward. I'll open the public hearing and ask if anyone would like to testify on this matter. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the board order for boundary change proposal CL 18-005, annexation to Clackamas County Service District Number 1.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve board order for boundary change proposal CL 18-005, annexation to Clackamas County Service District Number 1. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you, Martha. Motion carries. Next item.
All right, this is a board order for a boundary change proposal, number CL 18-008, annexation to Clackamas County Service District Number 1.
This is another piece of property which is inside the city of Happy Valley. The city has acceded to this. It will ultimately be developed under an approval from Happy Valley for a 68-unit PUD, and the district has the services available through WES. We recommend approval.
Great. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing and ask if anyone would like to testify on this matter. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve for approval of boundary change proposal CL 18-008, annexation to Clackamas County Service District Number 1.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve board order from boundary change proposal CL 18-008, annexation to Clackamas County Service District Number 1. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. We'll move on to the next item. Don?
Yes, this is a board order for a boundary change proposal, number CL-18-009, annexation to Clackamas County Service District Number 1.
And this is the third proposal. It's inside the city of Happy Valley. Once again, the city has acceded to it. It's already been approved for a 25-lot subdivision, and we'd recommend approval.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing and ask if anyone would like to testify on this matter. Yes, Les?
You guys need somebody to testify on these. Nobody. Just a general question, and that is, I think about Goal 14, and that's the smooth and orderly transition from rural to urban uses. And a lot of this property that's involved was in and around the Damascus Happy Valley boundary, from what I'm gathering. And I'm not here to question any of that, but how do we, expanding the sewers and bringing in development is inevitable, and I'm not here to stop any of that, but is there a correlation, because the sewers and a lot of the pipes are in the road right-of-ways, to approving these things, but yet do we have the roads for them? And I know maybe I'm getting into the legal weeds here, but I guess what I'm saying is you're actually turning things over to Happy Valley, and they'll be in charge of that in the future. They're annexing these properties into the city for development.
Well, they're already in Happy
Okay,
Valley.
that's where I'm confused, because, okay, so the district overlaps into Happy Valley is,
Yeah, the
okay,
district
that's
is
what's
the
not
provider
clear.
of sewers for all of Happy Valley.
Yeah, okay, and I guess what I'm really asking, not here to oppose any of the approvals, but is there a correlation there, or are the approvals ever really based on the roads and how they're connected, because they're using a lot of the road right-of-ways?
Well, that's a determination made by Happy Valley, frankly, and that's
Okay,
not-
and see, that's why I was.
Yeah, it's not us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I
they-
wouldn't bring it up, but we've got so much growth going on, and you sit there and again, I'm not here to question any of the approvals, but it just tells you how much is happening out there, and maybe that's more of a comment than a question, so thanks for your time.
And it's in the urban growth boundary, it's within Happy Valley, and,
Sure.
you know, Happy Valley's responsible for that, and so that's a reasonable question.
Okay, thanks.
I was just, my question, and I already know the answer, is that usually Happy Valley sees this first, and then it comes to the county.
Right. Generally speaking, we've got the process right. That is, they're looking at the land use implications first, and that includes some look at transportation, and then we just follow up with the sewer annexation.
All right, thank you, and now I forget which we were on, 18-011, right?
No, 009.
009.
09, okay, up one. All right, so, any clarifying questions? I'll open the public hearing, I already did that.
Close the public hearing.
Now I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Chair, I move we approve the board order for boundary change proposal CL 18-009, annexation of Clackamas County Service District Number 1.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve board order for boundary change proposal CL 18-009, annexation to Clackamas County Service District Number 1. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Martha? Oh, well.
Well, that's
Commissioner
next.
Schrader, are you there?
Okay, well, we've got 4 and 1.
Abstention.
Abstention.
Yeah, abstention. All right, great, motion carries. Next item?
Okay, this is the last boundary change proposal. It is a board order for boundary change proposal CL 18-011, annexation to the Tri-City Service District.
The Tri-City Service District, as you know, serves the cities of West Lynn, Gladstone, and Oregon City. And whenever we have an annexation to one of those units, we end up having to subsequently annex it into the district so that the district can provide the major services, the trunk lines and the treatment. And that's the case here. This has been approved by the city of West Lynn, and we'd recommend approval.
Okay, any clarifying questions? Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing and ask if anyone would like to testify on this matter. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the board order for boundary change proposal CL 18-011, annexation to Tri-City Service District.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve board order for boundary change proposal CL 18-011, annexation to Tri-Cities Service District. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Martha. And we'll move on to the next item.
Yeah, I want to thank Mr. Martin for
Thank you.
being here this morning. And I'm going to invite Krista Wolf from our Finance Department up to the dais. This is to consider a resolution for the Clackamas County supplemental budget at an amount greater than 10% as well as a budget reduction. So
And I think this is the first time you've actually done this, right?
No, actually, I believe we made some budget changes where we did a public hearing back in August.
Oh, okay.
So this will be the second time. However, this is a much longer list today. So thank you, Commissioners. Today I'm here to ask you to approve the changes to the 10% or greater to the various funds as requested by our departments in keeping with Oregon local budget law. For the most part, this is about treeing up beginning balances in our current year budget, as those were based on projections done in the early spring. You likely recall that a beginning balance refers to the amount of money that rolls over from the end of one fiscal year to the beginning of another. Another way of saying this is it's unspent monies that we calculated at the end of June 30th, and those become the opening balances for the books on July 1st. So now that our books for the fiscal year 17-18 are closed and have been submitted to our auditors, we know exactly how many dollars need to be rolled over from the old year to the current budget year. So we no longer need to rely on those projections we did back in the spring, and we need to true up those projections to actuals. So today we're recognizing those differences and also other differences in other funding sources, such as grants, charges for services, interfund transfers. Overall, we're adjusting our appropriations and spending authority by a total of $23,128,069. The required public notice for the changes was published in the Clackamas Review on November 28th. So now for the list, and bear with me because it's long. I'll go through these. The county school fund is recognizing fund balance and budgeting for special payments to the ESD in the amount of $305,553. The building codes fund is recognizing beginning fund balance and budgeting in reserves and appropriating for some temporary employment costs during a time of transition for some retirements in the amount of $1,317,025. The road fund is recognizing fund balance, interfund transfers from the DTD Capital Projects Fund, adjusting state grant funding, budgeting for personnel costs, some contracted maintenance costs, and additional heavy equipment purchases that were budgeted in the prior fiscal year, but not finalized until this fiscal year. And they're also increasing their contingency in the amount of $8,929,416. The Property Resources Fund is recognizing fund balance and other financing sources and budgeting for program costs, reserves, and contingencies in the amount of $607,889. The Justice Court is recognizing fund balance and budgeting an interfund transfer to the general fund in the amount of $1,375,508. The Transportation System Development Fund is recognizing fund balance and interfund transfers from the Happy Valley Clackamas Joint Transportation Fund and the Transportation Capital Projects Fund. They're also budgeting for professional services and contingency in the amount of $654,575. Our Happy Valley Clackamas Joint Transportation Fund is recognizing fund balance and budgeting an interfund transfer to close this fund in the amount of here we go. I knew some of these numbers were going to trip me up. So in the amount of $5,633. There's a lot of numbers to read through here, but we're getting there. The Clackamas County Community Solutions Fund is recognizing fund balance and budgeting an interfund transfer to the Children, Youth, and Families Fund as we're closing the Clackamas Community Solutions Fund. This is budgeted in the amount of $31,155. Our County Safety Net Legislation Local Projects Fund is recognizing prior year revenue and lower than anticipated fund balance and adjusting their special payments category accordingly. This is in the amount of $72,130. Our Transient Room Tax Fund is recognizing fund balance and increasing the interfund transfer to the Tourism Fund in the amount of $186,034. The Forest Management Fund is recognizing fund balance and increasing capital outlay for land acquisition anticipated but not made in the prior year in the amount of $1,044,547. The DTD Capital Projects Fund is recognizing additional fund balance, budgeting an interfund transfer to the Transportation and Development Fund and the Transportation System Development Fund to also close this fund. It's in the amount of $685,909.
Did you skip the Forest Management Fund?
Did I?
I think you did.
Let me go back and clarify that then.
That's just right before the last one you did.
Right before the last one. I may have. Let me read through it. The Forest Management Fund is recognizing fund balance and increasing capital outlay for land acquisition anticipated but not made in the prior year in the amount of $1,044,547. So we're getting there. We're down to our internal service funds. The Clackamas Broadband Utility Fund. Did I read the Local Improvement District Fund?
No.
I'm questioning this now. I think I did. The Clackamas Broadband Utility Fund is recognizing fund balance and budgeting for repairs and construction costs associated with this fund and establishing a contingency in the amount of $283,405. The Telecommunications Services Fund is recognizing additional fund balance and budgeting for higher personnel costs, capital equipment replacement, and upgrade costs in the amount of $620.
So, excuse me, Martha, you need to put that on mute. Sounds like you're making ice cream or something.
$623,827. The Technology Services Fund is recognizing additional fund balance from carryover projects, budgeting for the completion of those projects, equipment replacement costs, and higher personnel costs, as well as contingency in the amount of $2,839,054. We're on to the last page. The Self-Insurance Fund is recognizing fund balance and budgeting for program costs and increasing contingency in the amount of $3,552,473. The Fleet Management Fund is recognizing additional fund balance and an interfund transfer from the Sheriff's Fund and budgeting for capital vehicle expenses, professional services, and increasing contingency in the amount of $580,758. The Records Management Fund is recognizing additional fund balance and budgeting for office updates to provide better security for staff and increasing contingency in the amount of $95,569. And with that, that brings us to the end of the list. So I would respectfully ask that the Board of County Commissioners would approve the supplemental budget.
Any questions?
What happens if we say no?
That would not be a good thing.
Ken?
Yes, just wanted to make a comment, because there's always economic downturns that occur. So seeing that you have several funds here that you have increased contingency in, and you've also established a contingency fund in our telecommunications area, just want to say I appreciate that. I don't think there's any such thing as too much contingency fund. So thank you.
All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Public hearing.
Oh, yes, well, that's true. I'll open the public hearing, ask if anyone would like to testify on this matter. Hold the crowds back. Close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the resolution for a Clackamas County supplemental budget greater than 10% and budget reduction for fiscal year 2018-2019.
Second.
It's moved and second that we approve a resolution for Clackamas County supplemental budget greater than 10% and budget reduction for fiscal year 2018-2019. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Martha. Next
Thank you.
is a public discussion item, and I'm going to announce that the board will recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board of Directors for the next item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm inviting Mr. Scott Archer, who is our Director of the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District, to the dais here, and he will provide a short presentation on our communications plan for the district. And of course, this is a public discussion item, so there is an opportunity for the public to address the Board of Directors for the Parks and Recreation District. Mr. Archer?
Thank you, Mr. Krupp. Good morning, NCPRD Board of Directors. Thank you for the opportunity to provide an update report to you on a few items and activities related to the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. Just briefly, I will be reviewing the status of some of our major projects in process, just to give you an update on that. I will review our upcoming community outreach meetings, as Mr. Krupp just said. And then also at the very end, we have a discussion about the status of our NCPRD board meetings, which is what you're doing at the moment, as well as our status of our district advisory board. And then also, as Mr. Krupp said, I think the intent here today is also provide an opportunity for any public input on NCPRD related matters. So with that, I'd like to begin by reviewing the status of our major projects in process. There are a number, and I know that you've heard at least a little bit about all of these, but just a brief review of what we're doing. So, in addition to other major past projects that we've done in the district, throughout the district over the last number of years, such as the trolley trail, Stringfield Park and Risley Park in Oak Grove and Jennings Lodge area, Hoodview Park in Happy Valley, and numerous others, we're also excited to share with you some of the new projects in various stages of planning and developments. First, in the unincorporated areas of the district, we have made progress on several fronts. The first I want to tell you about is the Boardman Wetland Project, and this is a project that's the result of a partnership with the Oak Lodge Water Services District and other community partners. The 5.8-acre park is part of the larger Boardman-Reinerson watershed complex, and it's scheduled to be completed this coming spring 2019. The project will conserve vital green space and wetland habitat. It'll expand public access to wetlands with an outdoor learning classroom, which will be a very unique facility for us. It'll have a hands-on education area with pond access, and it'll provide recreational opportunities to the community, including access to a boardwalk, trails, and a and a playground. That'll be a nature playground, and this is in the Jennings Lodge portion of the district. The Concord property, I know you're quite familiar with this. We acquired this through the strategic partnership with the school district, of course. It's in the Oak Grove area. It sits on 6 acres of property. It's a 40,000 square foot building. And we are beginning a joint planning process with the Oak Lodge Library to evaluate the best uses of this property in conjunction with the Park District. Of course, we've formed our 15-member community task force to assist and advise the NCPRD Board of Directors on what this property will become. We had our first steering committee meeting last evening, and I think it went quite well. So we are underway. Additionally, in the Oak Grove and Jennings Lodge areas, we are working on some potential school partnership agreements at 2 locations, and these are with North Clackamas School District at the new urban high school site in the Oak Grove community, and with the Oregon City School District at the Jennings Lodge Elementary site. We'll be bringing some information to you, some further updates on this in the very near future to give you some additional feedback or some additional information regarding proposed IGAs and receive your feedback. But this is just a quick snapshot of that. And the idea with these properties will be that we would be looking at developing and maintaining neighborhood parks on portions of the school district-owned properties. So public-public partnership using existing public lands to meet the needs of our lack of parks in these particular areas. In the Milwaukee area, we are working on Wichita Park. We are very close to being done. I think most of you or all of you were at our groundbreaking ceremony a few months back, and this has moved quickly. Wichita Park is a 1-acre park in the Linwood neighborhood of Milwaukee. We've worked on this project in partnership with the City of Milwaukee and the Linwood Neighborhood Association, and we've had lots of guiding input from the community. That park is now coming to fruition, and we expect it to be completed at the end of this month, and it'll be open to the public very soon thereafter. We will, sometime in the spring, when the weather is more fitting, we'll have a grand opening ribbon-cutting celebration. Also in Milwaukee, we are working on the Milwaukee Bay Park project, formerly known as Riverfront Park. We're updating the design to complete Milwaukee Bay Park in partnership with the City of Milwaukee and our Steering Advisory Committee. This project is building on past work while taking into consideration the current needs of the city, the district, and our entire community. This is a regionally significant waterfront park. As part of the public outreach process, we've held 2 public meetings, and we've conducted things like online surveys and held open houses, and we have whittled it down to 3 site alternatives. We have had tremendous public input on this process besides just our meetings. We had, this summer, we heard from approximately 1,000 community members on the key elements of the park, including things like a children's play area, water feature, art, and social gathering areas. So far this fall, we've heard from approximately 500 community members on the 3 design alternatives, and we're continuing to move those forward and engage our community. So over the winter, the feedback will help us develop a final design, which we'll be bringing back to you, the board, and we'll also be sharing with our community and holding additional public workshops. And lastly, on our project updates, Hidden Falls Nature Park in Happy Valley. This wonderful new amenity that we're working on is a little over 21 acres in size. It will, when completed, feature multi-use paved trail, of course the beautiful 22-foot waterfall that you're looking at right there. We'll have resting and viewing areas, this gorgeous timber bridge that's already installed over Rock Creek, and lots of just natural area and open space and habitat restoration. That is expected to be completed by February of 2019, so we're getting close. And again, we will be holding a grand opening celebration sometime in this coming spring, and we're very excited about that.
So Paul had a question about the Boardman Wetlands project.
Well, it was more of a comment, and I don't want to interrupt your presentation, but I just
Whatever
want to,
you'd
just
like.
for clarification's sake, before we get off of this, I have a lot of things I'll say afterwards, but I just want to confirm, my understanding was that the Boardman project is primarily a Oak Lodge Water Services project, and we are a small partner in that. Is that correct?
Well, we are actually more than a small partner. We're a big partner. So the way it's working is the property is actually being transferred to NCPRD. So it's a tremendous project in partnership. So Oak Lodge Water Services is developing. They're doing the project. They hired the contractor. We're contributing our portion, which is mostly for the playground, and then they're transferring the amenity over to the district for public use. So really, we're going to become the major operator of that facility.
Okay. And I'll speak to this a little bit more afterwards when you're complete with your presentation, but thank you for answering that question.
Thank you. This map just gives you a quick snapshot of the projects that we just discussed. It also kind of shows you the little varying size blobs all over the place. Those are our existing amenities throughout the district. And so just a quick snapshot, kind of high view of those things that we're working on throughout the district. So as mentioned earlier, we are working on some upcoming community meetings that we want to talk to you about and make sure that our listening and viewing audiences are aware of, and we're putting out lots of information about this. So obviously you are quite aware of the city's efforts to withdraw from NCPRD. And while we continue to work through the legal matters on this withdrawal effort, we certainly want to make sure it's known that the district is not intending to stand in the way of the city if they wish to leave. That said, the district does have concerns regarding the potential impacts that this decision will have on all residents of the district, including those that live in Happy Valley. For this reason, the district is hosting a series of public meetings and other outreach opportunities to residents to share with them both the potential impacts of a Happy Valley exit, as well as to describe the process that we will undertake to ensure that the highest level of service possible is provided to those residents and the jurisdictions that remain in the district should Happy Valley leave. So next week, this coming up week, we are holding two listening sessions, two community conversations and listening sessions. And those are Monday, December 10th at the Rose Villa Senior Living Center in Oak Grove, and then Wednesday the 12th at Rock Creek Middle School in Happy Valley. And the time of those is at 6:30, 6 o'clock? 6:30, thank you. Apologize that we didn't put the time up there on the slide. It's at, these are at 6:30 p.m. at both of those locations. I also want to note that in addition to the two meetings here, we are planning to hold two additional meetings, similar types of meetings, in the month of January, and we are going to be announcing the details of those two meetings very soon. So we'll have a total of 4 of these community conversations over the next 6 weeks or so, and we'll inform you more about those as they're announced. Our purpose with these, just to be very clear, is to ensure that all residents have the necessary information to evaluate how this potential development with regard to the withdrawal efforts will impact our residents both individually as well as the district as a whole. Regardless of the outcome, we're committed to making any necessary accommodations to our operations and budgets to continue to provide the highest level of service and value as much as possible to our NCPRD residents. The next discussion point is going to be about district board meetings and DAB meetings, but before I move to that, are there any questions or discussion on the prior topic?
Commissioner Savas.
Well, thanks. So I'm going to tactfully speak on the items as is appropriate, but I did want to say that due to the fact we have not met as the board of the district for a long time, it's created a lot of angst among a number of folks because they just don't know what's going on certain issues. And I just want to speak to the projects. Whether it's the Boardman project or the Concord project or, you know, any of these projects, you know, as a member of the district who lives within the district and also as a liaison to the board, I have, and maybe in the next subsequent meetings, the next meeting we have can answer some of those questions, but I would certainly like to better understand the cost of maintaining these facilities. A lot of discussion and plans go into, you know, acquiring the funds and planning the facility and what it looks like and building it, constructing it, and all of those. But, you know, there's a lot of revenue and a lot of cost to maintaining these facilities, and I think that's something that we need to be cognizant of. And I just don't have an idea of what some of these facilities will cost to maintain and what the future of the district within that particular millage rate of almost 54 cents per thousand will accomplish. And with the uncertainty about where the boundaries of the district may be, even more concern about under different scenarios what that looks like. So I just want to just express that, and I'll just stop there and I'll comment later on other things.
All right, anything, Ken?
Well, a quick question on that issue. Have you done an assessment of the financial stability of the district should Happy Valley withdraw?
We of course do ongoing financial assessment, and we're constantly evaluating that. We have a small but mighty finance team that are dedicated to the district, but we do need to have continued work on that and continued understanding of what the impacts really will be financially, how that may or may not impact services and those types of things. So yes, we have, but we will also continue to do so.
So do you have a final product, or is that an in-process product?
In process.
When would you anticipate having some specific results?
Well, we're going to talk about in the next few minutes some of your potential upcoming NCPRD just dedicated board meetings, and that would be, I think, a great topic of discussion at those meetings. So in the next couple of months or so.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And thanks for asking that question. I don't know the answer to that either.
Yeah.
And I'd like to learn. All right, so continue.
Okay, so moving to our last subject here, segue from some of the comments here about the fact that we have not met specifically as an NCPRD, or you've not met as an NCPRD only board of directors for some time. I think it's actually been back to February of this year, so it's been a substantial amount of time. And then the continued challenge of not having our district advisory board (DAB) meetings, and the reason for that has been, as you well know, because of the matter of the Happy Valley potential withdrawal. That's created challenges with what the makeup of the district is and representation. So we're continuing to work on that. But as the point has been made well this morning by you, the board, we do want to have more frequent meetings, more public input opportunity, while we continue to work through the resolution of the Happy Valley situation and have definitive information so that we can move forward clearly. And so the options that we can consider, or that you can consider, that we can discuss, would be two things. One is that I would recommend that this board, acting as the NCPRD Board of Directors, would continue to hold regular, at least approximately monthly meetings, where you are just the Board of Directors for NCPRD and you have public input opportunities. You would receive updates, input from your staff. It would also allow you the opportunity for discussion and questions and so forth. And the suggestion would be that you would do these in conjunction with your regular evening business meetings that you're holding now. And the first of those, I think, is January 31st. I believe we're already tentatively on your agenda to have an NCPRD Board of Directors meeting. So similarly to what you've done today, but in the evening, you would gavel in as the Board of Directors for the Park District. It would allow that opportunity while we work towards a definitive direction on our District Advisory Board. In the meantime, we're going to continue to work on bringing you some proposals on the District Advisory Board. Again, the challenge that we've had is from I guess a legal perspective is we're still trying to understand for sure what our definitive boundaries are and the representation therein, and that the DAB is tied directly to that. And it's also tied to agreements. For example, our IGA that is in existence with the City of Milwaukee specifies certain representation. We need to dig into that and revisit that more and have some conversations with you, the board, and we've really just not had that opportunity to have a good, thorough conversation. We've had a couple of very high-level conversations with you. So the recommendation is, if you're willing, that we would meet with you as the NCPRD Board of Directors on those approximately monthly. I don't think they're exactly monthly. I think there's something like every fifth week or something along those lines. But at those evening business meetings, we would, yes, sir.
I'm sorry. Those are currently approximately one every 3 months.
Is that
at this
correct?
point. Yes.
Okay.
They're on the fifth Thursdays
Okay.
that occur in approximately every 3 months at this point in time. The board has not yet decided whether or not we're going to have regular monthly
So those are-
evening meetings or not.
Very good.
So just so you understand
Thank
what
you.
it currently is.
Okay, I'd heard that, and then I'd heard some different, so I thank you for the clarification. So my suggestion would be then, we would certainly propose to do these meetings at least at those meetings. If it's your desire, we could also do these during your daytime business meetings, as we're doing today, in the off months. The challenge with that is the time and the availability for district residents to participate. So I would suggest to you that staff would be prepared to do whatever is the preference of the board, but we would recommend at a minimum having it at those evening meetings, but potentially doing those even in between months. And then, in the meantime, again, we will continue to work towards a resolution on the district advisory board.
Before I go to Paul, one thing that we could consider also is those Wednesdays where we have land use hearings and we don't have a lot of those, so put some day and night meetings together. But I think, but you know, we shouldn't have meetings we don't need to have. So the business there should be some real business to have, you know, those meetings on, not just an update that we can read in our email, but we just have to make sure the residents of the district have that information also provided. So that could be just a presentation during a regular policy session if there's not a decision to be made. If there's a decision to be made, then we need to either do it on Wednesdays where we don't have a land use hearing or in the evening. Paul.
Well, I'm going to be really careful. I don't want to chide anyone, but I disagree with some of the comments. I first got involved with special districts 21 years ago, and I was a member of a special district for a very long time. I would tell you that if a particular city or a county chose not to meet for months on end, that probably wouldn't go over very well. And frankly, it's not that much different when the district chooses not to meet for a long time. However, I do understand, and I'm not chiding anyone, these are extremely unusual circumstances in which the DAB meetings were ceased to happen, and we were having evening meetings on Wednesday evenings, I believe, regularly as the NCPRD within the boundaries of the district as normal to at least conduct some normalcy of business and give the opportunity some reasonable expectation that they can participate and do business as I think the constituents of the district, about 122,000 people, would normally expect. So again, because of those unusual circumstances, I think at the very minimum we should be meeting on a regular basis. There is business to do. There are questions, there are concerns, there are projects that are underway, there are neighbors to these projects. There are a lot of questions in the media or by the constituents reading different versions of what is coming out as time progresses. And, you know, we were elected not just to the Board of County Commissioners, but to all the other different hats we wear, districts and NCPRD, one of them. So we have a responsibility to meet. And if we can't, if it's difficult to meet on a Thursday evening, we should meet on an evening that's convenient. And I say evening with some deliberateness. Last night was a great example. We had a great, as was alluded to earlier, we had a great kind of a joint meeting about with the one project being the Concord project, and we have a lot of excellent committee members that are going to participate in that. Some are in this room today. And I will say that if we held the meetings in the morning as opposed to the evening for those folks, there would be little to no attendance, little to no valued input. Because a lot of people can't attend, they're working. I would strongly suggest to make ourselves accessible. I think that is something that is really important. And we have, and I'm not talking about the county commission, I'm talking about NCPRD. We are here today wearing the hats of NCPRD. So I would emphasize that what I heard last night from our citizens, as far as even on the scheduling and then going over the bylaws for their first meeting, that ability to meet and getting that valued input for those for those constituents isn't going to happen at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday. If we really want that input, and we want valuable input, we want to be accessible, I would argue that we find an evening that works within the boundaries of the district and meet regularly, not irregularly, and not at irregular locations, but be consistently available, just as we are at 10 o'clock in the morning as a Board of County Commissioners. Thank you.
So I had one question, and we may have already done this, but the advisory board was looking at SDCs. Where did we end up on that?
We ended up on pause. We were digging into that process. We were well into that update of the SECs, but we had to push the pause button because of the uncertainty of where we're at with the Happy Valley withdrawal matter. What are the boundaries of the district? Which areas we're serving? That leads directly into our capital projects and SDC planning. So that's why we had to do that.
Well, the one thing that concerns me about that is that there's a lot of development going on. We may have some SDCs that are pretty old, and the areas that we know we're going to be collecting SDCs, unincorporated Clackamas County and Milwaukee, I think we should have continued that discussion and come up with something there. But so anyway, hopefully we'll have this discussion soon and we can resolve that. But that concerns me that the development in the community is quite extensive, and we may be missing out on an opportunity. So anyway, we can have that discussion later. Ken?
Yes, I just wanted to ask if you would arrange a tour with Ms. DeSantis for me of the Boardman project. I haven't seen it, and I would like to see it when we can work the schedules out.
Yeah, I would like to go with you.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'd love to do that. We'll, I guess, make sure that everybody is aware of that. And yes, thank you. We'd love to do that.
They should go during rainy season.
Let's go during the rain.
And there's a little more water.
It's a tremendous project, and we would love to show it off to you. Thank you.
Okay. Are you done with your presentation?
So that is the conclusion of my presentation, and I know you had opportunity for some public input, and I'll be available for any questions you might have.
Okay, great. So we have Grover Jeffrey Ronfeld and Jan Carruthers up first. Jan? Oh. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Grover Jeffrey Bornefeld, and I live in Jennings Lodge, Oregon, where I have lived for the last 27 years with my wonderful wife, which most of you don't know, because she still works. And I always want to take this opportunity to quickly thank particularly the people I'm staring at now and the people that support it back there for the trend that has reversed, changed, and affected where our county's going. I live here. I'm going to live here till the end, and I want to keep working with you to make this the place it needs to be and it can be, and we have lots of room for growth, and like I said, I want to support the trend. I am a citizen participant advocate. I work across many things, parks, libraries, and this particular issue is important to me. And so I want to speak to the important part of citizen inclusion in our process. This is not where the Parks Department decides this or the library directors decide that. It is where the citizens who actually pay for all this. Same with the schools. So I want to keep advocating for that. And I'm quite concerned about this issue of breaking up our district. It is a district. It was conceived as a district to meet a need of a broad area, most of which was unincorporated at the time that we voted to begin to tax ourselves. And I was here for that and have been paying into that for these 27 years. I don't think we can look at it as parts. It is a district. And we have invested in it as a district. The unincorporated have paid the most money in by a long shot. I loved it when this piece of material came out that showed, for those who can't see, I don't know who can see it, but this is that unincorporated paid 73% of the tax dollars into this over the term. Whereas Milwaukee, bless their hearts, they paid 10%, and Happy Valley, excuse me, I had that backwards. Happy Valley paid 10%, Milwaukee's paid 17%, but that's 73%. So it is a district. We can't split it up into parts. I also want to speak to what the value of recreation and departments, that kind of work is. For 25 years, we started out as volunteers and created a youth program in this area to work with the most disadvantaged kids, and it was phenomenal. And then I was asked to replicate that in California, so I started commuting back to my old neighborhood, and for 15 years I commuted to build a very strong community-based intervention program for youth, but it also affected the adults and whatnot. It is a place that recreation brings people together and provides people an opportunity, and I think we need to keep going. So I was thrilled. I was at that task force meeting last night, and I'm thrilled what the possibilities offer in that. I do want to say one little minor note. When I was in the 6th grade, we moved from the country. Can I go a little longer? We moved from the country, thank you, to urban, in the shadows of Stanford University, and I was lost. I didn't know anybody. And I wandered through the school who had a youth program as part of the Parks Department there, and I was there every day for the rest of the summer. Nobody called. I just found it, and it was a great place to get involved. We do not involve our youth nearly as much as we need to. They don't know civics, they don't know any of that stuff, and we need to engage them, and parks and recreation is the place to get to do that. So, I want to speak to one thing I learned from all my years of doing that. We could produce a quality program for 2 kids, but I could produce the same program for just a little bit more for 20 kids or 50 kids. So I really want to speak to the economy of scale. If we start narrowing it down to this little part here and this little part, we can't support it all. I used to talk about volunteers. There's not enough money in any of the government agencies that I've worked with, and I've worked with ones far bigger than this one, that can pay staff to do all the work. So if we don't effectively integrate volunteers in doing things, we'll never get it done. We have this untapped, and besides that, I use a quick example of our mentors. Our mentors, we recruit them and train them, and we had a 60% re-up after 350-hour commitment over a year period. 60% of them came back and did it again and again and again because it was a benefit for them and they got to see they made a difference. We're not tapping that resource, and Parks and Rec is a perfect place to do it. So my last thing I want to say, because I know I'm way out of time, is that I want it to be clear who pays for all of this. Parks, libraries, etc. It is the taxpayers. And I want us to be included in that. So if there is any decision about withdrawal, it is up to the taxpayers who've paid that money. I certainly appreciate that's an unclear piece at this moment, but the taxpayers are the ones who should make that final decision because it's their money. And it's going to cost us by losing the economy of scale and the access to things if we don't do it that way. So I'm definitely not in favor of breaking up the district, and I think we should really treat it as a district, not zones, no, it is a district. Thank you very much.
Yeah, by the way, we met with the school districts, and they are very concerned about after-school programming. They can't afford it. They're talking about going out to the voters for monies to fund those programs, and you're absolutely right. I mean, the Parks District is the place where there's a lot of opportunity to do that, to address that issue, and we constantly say, we were up at the mountains thanking citizens for their volunteer efforts up at the mountains, but we have 70 boards and commissions that are all volunteers, and we couldn't survive without them. So I think that's a discussion we have to have, and we are a district. We don't want anyone to leave. We want everyone to be satisfied that they're getting their value out of their investment, and it is an investment. And so, you know, Ken.
I agree with you. The citizens of the unincorporated part of Clackamas County and the citizens of the city of Happy Valley are equally citizens of Clackamas County. I agree with you on the economy of scale issue. One of the reasons that we're going to be doing the outreach that we're doing with the Parks District is hopefully to get more information in the hands of the citizens of Happy Valley in particular, so that there's a clear understanding of the benefit of being part of the district. It may or may not be possible for us to stop that train. Some of this is of course in the courts, and then there's a process that has to be followed if it's going to go to the voters. And we don't know where we are in this whole process. But I personally, and I'm only going to speak for myself on this, I personally believe that the citizens of Happy Valley and the unincorporated areas of Clackamas County that are part of this district would be better served if the district was to remain whole. However, it may not end up being our decision to make. And
Chair Bernard, I'd like to make a comment when Ken is done.
Okay, I'll let you know when Ken's done.
So
Right. Okay,
I'm pretty much done. And I will defer to my senior colleague.
All right, Martha, go ahead.
Oh, you guys are making me feel pretty old as a senior of the group here. I wanted to agree with Ken. I think this is unfortunate. An economy of scale, I think we've really served all the citizens of the district well. I think in the last few years in particular, we've really tried to make sure the unincorporated area gets what it needs. We've done some wonderful work in Happy Valley. I would like to, personally, I've been very clear with all of my colleagues and my friends in Happy Valley that I think staying in the district is the better course. But Ken is absolutely correct where we're still in the middle of litigation questions about how things were managed with a withdrawal. So we're still kind of in a wait and hold mode. But I do think the citizens need to understand very clearly what some of the consequences should be should a withdrawal move forward. So that's my 2 cents for what it's worth. Thanks.
All right, and one other thing you said, and Paul's mentioned in the past, I think that next year we should have a all-county meeting where we get everybody together and talk about where we shall be in the future.
I think that'd be a great idea. Be a really good idea to do that. Yeah.
And where we want to be and where we shall be is a legal term. So.
Well, as a point of, so I've been studying this, and by 2040, the projections from Portland State /Metro are that there's going to be 500 to 600,000 more people in the Tri-County. The ones I read, they change fast, but the part that I want to most speak to is going to be between 90,000 and well over 100,000 are going to be here in Clackamas County. And if we don't look at where that goes and how it fits together, we're going to keep reacting. We have to get out in front of it, transportation-wise, schools-wise, parks-wise, et cetera.
Yeah, 8.14% growth in Clackamas County. I mean, like Ken and I mentioned earlier, driving out to Estacada and driving to Westland yesterday, to Wilsonville yesterday, I've never seen roads like that, and it's not going to get better. It's guaranteed it's not going to get better. Go ahead. And I kind of felt that he told you something you had never heard before.
What was that?
Oh, I just, his work in the schools and working to bring the community together. It looked like you.
No, I was just thinking ahead. I was part of that. Thank you very much. My name is Jan Carruthers. I am a native Oregonian. I grew up on Mount Hood and have always been in Clackamas County. So I just appreciate, first of all, the work of the NCPRD. The report is exciting. Lots of things are happening. And I also want to thank you for the recommendation, the encouragement that the board meets more frequently and more accessibly, because it is the place where we can have conversations. And so you said sometime we ought to have that conversation. That's the kind of thing we want to know when you're going to have that conversation. So there's two or three things. You're more graceful than I am by you saying we encourage, we certainly don't want to hold Happy Valley back if they want to leave. I really do want to hold Happy Valley back if they want to leave, partly because of the same thing that Grover just said. It is a district. I'm very curious to know if the 10% of their budget that they contribute, what is the cost of maintaining Happy Valley-related parks, and how it's been over the years. That, since they've been talking about leaving for a long time, I would really be looking forward to knowing what the impact is that going to be. What do we pay into those parks? What will the difference be? And this isn't a new conversation, so that would really encourage that. What is the projected time to know with the courts? We're talking about some time we're in hold period. How do you know when that will happen? Is there a court date set? Is there a place to go and testify? We don't know what that means. And there's no advisory board to support you, so it's only when you meet. Do you see what I'm saying? We're a little bit in the I'm wondering when state of affairs. So that would be my most important thing that I would say. We are contributing a lot of money. There is activity going on. However, I suspect it's going to be a great deal of impact. One of the things that happened is that new parks, how did it get to be that new parks would only be built out of SDCs? Where did that come from?
Happy Valley.
State? Go ahead.
I'm just curious.
Maybe you can
Sure, I can give a
Thanks.
little bit of an explanation. So, the tax rate that we receive, the 54 cents
Yeah.
approximately per thousand, primarily is for the operation of the district. So, maintenance, programming, administration, and those type of things. A little bit of that goes into projects occasionally, but that amount does not in itself support doing new projects.
Got it.
In our state, SDCs are a tool. It's a tool that we can choose to adopt locally with park districts or different types of services, and NCPRD has done that. And we supplement our SDC spending on projects with grants, partnerships. We were just talking about our partnership with Oak Lodge Water Services at Boardman. We can do creative things with school districts to utilize already available property, but we do have to get very creative. The only other tool beyond those funds that we have right now get into passing bond measures. So, if you really wanted to go out and ask the voters to support more projects, that would be the way to do it. But those are the tools that we have available to us.
Yeah, the district, like the agreement with Happy Valley was that they would pass a bond measure, and the district has always anticipated passing a bond measure to build more parks, because the 45 cents only pays for maintenance. And SDCs do not, you can't build a whole park and spend all your SDCs to build that park. You have to have other money, because SDCs are limited by, and I don't know all
Well, not only
those
that,
Percentages of
SDCs are not
eligibility.
entirely dedicated to parks. They're mostly about water and other things, right?
Well, that's the full array.
But
That's the
anyway.
parks.
So I was just curious about, those are the kinds of things that I think even a reasonably attentive community member might not know and not have the access to ask. So thank you
that's-
very much.
And that's why we're gonna do the community meetings. I think it's important that, and you said it, Happy Valley is not a person. It's not one person. Neither is Clackamas County. And the issue is, the voters voted in the district and, in Happy Valley, and the argument is that the voters should vote to withdraw from the district. And that's really what I believe our esteemed lawyer yesterday was a case that might answer that question, but I am not a lawyer. I don't play one on television. Is that true?
You're not a lawyer?
Yeah.
I'm not a lawyer.
For my clarification, what is the question, Chair?
Well, the question was yesterday was you were in front of a judge, and the judge is making a decision on a specific issue which might help answer that question.
Yesterday, the county, the assessor, and the Parks District were in court with Happy Valley in front of Pro Tem Judge Brighthop. The question was whether ORS 198 controls or ORS 222 controls the withdrawal of a city or property from a county service district. And that is the threshold question. No testimony is really taken. It's really just an oral argument of the lawyers themselves with their supporting documentation. The court was very involved, very interested in the question, and said that we would have his opinion before the holidays.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you tell us what the difference between those two statutes are?
198 is the county and the district in the position that it controls, and it requires a petition by electors or property owners from the affected area. In this case, it would be Happy Valley, to submit a petition to the Board of County Commissioners, which is functioning as the local boundary commission in that scenario, and that the board would make a determination on the withdrawal based on the feasibility of the withdrawn area to receive the services that it's withdrawing from, in this case, Parks and Recreation Services. The board could approve it or could reject it. The voters could then remonstrate and ask for a district-wide vote on the withdrawal question. So it's a two-tiered review process. The one that's advocated by the city and followed by the city allows for a city to unilaterally, by way of a vote of its city council, to withdraw property from a particular service district. And that's the core of the dispute, is exactly that.
And you expect an answer before the holidays.
That is what the judge represented, correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And so we're going to go to Paul first and then Ken.
I just want to make a comment for those that are watching and those that are in the audience that I think it was 2 Tuesdays ago, we did have a brief work session during the morning or afternoon on this topic. And so there's a packet online on the county website. And I have we're not going to get anywhere close to all the comments and input that I have. And there's a lot, again, just because of the fact we haven't met, we haven't had a chance to really discuss this. But I would venture to say, just to guess, that if we, for example, if we go to the NCPRD website and we wanted to find or direct the public to go to listen to that work session we had on 2 Tuesdays ago, that they probably wouldn't find it there. My guess is they have to go to the Board of County Commissioners website and look for it there. And that's just one fundamental example of accessibility, information, and transparency, that one little crack, if you will, in the structure we currently have. And again, I'm not here to chide anyone, but just very little opportunity to speak to these things. We have not convened a number of our special districts in a very long time. Frankly, that's just fundamentally unacceptable. And I'm hoping that today can make the point, and in the future we'll make the point, that we have a responsibility to the people who pay into those districts to convene and be accessible and to be able to have the questions, including the board of directors, which happens to be the 5 of us here convened today.
Ken.
Yeah, I wanted to back up to some statements by our esteemed counsel. If I recall and please correct me if I'm wrong, but if I recall the statute correctly, if it comes before the board and the board is capable of continuing to provide the county the current level of service in that service district, then the board shall vote, not may vote, but shall vote to continue the service, which would then throw it to the electors to call for an election.
The word, I believe, in the statute is feasible. If it's feasible that the district can provide the service to the affected area, then the board, again, serving as a boundary commission, shall reject the petition. we don't want to get ahead of ourselves because we don't know what the petition would say. They very well might say that the level of service offered by the city as proposed is an elevated level of service beyond that currently provided. I don't think there's a question that the Parks District currently provides a level of service that's feasible. I think that goes without saying. I think what the city might present, if they were to go through that path, would be a level of service that would be increased or enhanced or improved upon from what is currently there. But you are correct with the analysis, the level of review, and then were there a remonstrance from the voters or the electors within the district, then it would go to a district-wide vote. It is not automatic, though. The board could approve or reject, and it could stop there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you very much, appreciate it. Thank you. Next we have Jan Albrecht and Wilda Parks. Thank you. Just tell us your name and where you live, and about 3 minutes, approximately.
Starting alphabetically.
No.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Jan Albrecht, and I'm here as a resident of Happy Valley, as in zip code, but I participate in the swimming events at the aquatic park that are in Clackamas County. And if Happy Valley were to withdraw, we would lose our current happy contention with the swimming. And those of us who go to the pool when I go, we're not young. We won't be in any beauty contests. We want to be healthy. We want social interaction. We want mental wellness. And being able to be a part of the aquatic park as it stands now is incredibly important to all of us. Mental health, physical health, and that gets harder and harder as you get older, but it's a wonderful place, and we relish that as part. Happy Valley may say, well, we can provide lots of things, but at this point in time, there is no swimming facility, so those of us who hobble or creak or wobble would get to do park walking and get to do bridge crossing and get to swing on the swings. But we need more than that. We need to have the chance for the real thing that gives us the exercise capability of being good, healthy, aging citizens. And as you know, there are more and more of us every day. So my hope is, as that zip code, it does not leave, that it does stay together, and that we can all participate in the activities as they are presented to us.
Well, first, let me know if I'm wrong. The Aquatic Center is open to everyone, anywhere they live. There may be a cost differential.
That's true.
If you live outside the district. Yep. But otherwise, it is open to everyone, wherever they live, correct?
That is correct. There's one addition to that. So there is a non-resident participation rate for anybody that is higher. The second piece of that, though, is where it might be more impactful, I think, to residents of Happy Valley, is that we have an in-district resident priority registration period for anything that you actually register or sign up for example, swim lessons. Okay. And those happen to be a very popular activity, and there are limited slots. And so the 1 week, believe it or not, the 1 week in-district priority registration, those can fill up, and there can be issues where people don't get into the activities if you're out of district. So,
thank you. Thank you. Wilda.
Thank you very much. Wilda Parks. I live at 6605 Southeast Hemlock Street in the city of Milwaukee. I have the honor of serving as a city councilor for the city of Milwaukee, and also as, because we're on pause, I think I can still say this, we're not done, we're on pause. I also serve as the chair of the District Advisory Committee, the District Advisory Board for NCPRD, and I also sit on the City of Milwaukee's Park and Recreation Board as a liaison from DAB to the PARB. I want to commend you on the fact of doing the 4 community meetings. You might even need more than 4, but, you know, of setting those up and doing those, because I think that just that visitation with the folks in the community, the residents, throughout, you know, a series of time will be extremely beneficial, because many of them don't understand what's going on. They don't know why we're not, for instance, you know, having DAB meetings and one thing and another. So, you know, it's good to present all those issues in front of folks. I want to also thank NCPRD and the Board of County Commissioners, and especially sitting as the board of the district, for the work that we've been able to do most recently with NCPRD. As you know, and as was mentioned, the regionally significant Milwaukee Bay Park is coming along. We're, you know, almost finished with developing the phases of that, phase 3, and the choices that we have. And Director Archer was certainly correct. There have been well over 1,000 voices that were part of that discussion. Wichita Park, as he mentioned, will open, you know, quite soon, and we'll have a formal opening actually. So we appreciate the work that's gone on that. And we're very interested in the future of the Wichita Center on King Road, which is part of what you'll take in the recent sale that you did last year. And that will benefit not only Milwaukee, but obviously the entire area. And the district, which of course includes the UGMA, the urban growth management areas of both Happy Valley and Milwaukee. And so it's that and the unincorporated areas and the cities that are involved in that. I also chaired the SDC subcommittee that was working through that, and I would very much like to see that reconstituted, along with, of course, a reconstitution of the District Advisory Board. I realize there are some issues that need to be resolved first, and I look forward to, you know, having that happen. I want you to know that I do have routine meetings with Director Archer, so I stay as informed as possible with what's going on, and I try to make it to your meetings when, you know, when you do have them, so that we can all stay more informed. So I report back to my city, and I report to our Parks and Recreation Board. Finally, I just want to let you know that I am available to help you in any way and to be a part of any discussions on how to move all of this forward. So I thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, well, thank you, Wilda, for coming here today and speaking, and your service on both the Milwaukee City Council and the DAB and other many hats you wear in the community.
Yeah, my head won't hold them.
I really appreciate, as a member of the DAB, and many of the members of the DAB are the former or the on pause DAB, their patience through this difficult time and your understanding for the circumstances in which, you know, it's been put on pause. I would definitely want to see some work in cooperation in the next staff proposals on how we, you know, revitalize and when the DAB, for example. And so any input there, I think what was really telling about the meeting 2 Tuesdays ago with regard to the low work session we had, we're trying to highlight some of the PowerPoint I think Mr. Bornefeld held up that was distributed at that meeting, which there was some data in there. But I have been asking for data for a long time that would better help answer some of these basic questions. You know, what's it cost to maintain a facility? Where are the facilities? What's the benefit, cost-benefit analysis of all of these? There are some business decisions that need to be made, and we can't really do that very accurately without good data and good information. So I'm hoping we can do that, and I do know that over the years I've heard, you know, members of the DAB as well as myself asking for some of those numbers, and we've, you know, got bits and pieces, but we, especially now with this particular situation in front of us, we really need to have answers to those questions, and we really don't get that done at the annual budget committee meeting. We just don't have that chance. So again, thank you, and I would like to see us, at least staff, bring some proposals, some timing, and what that DAB might look like. And I think what best illustrates a conundrum for us is that not only does a pie chart talk about where the dollars distributed, but also talks about really where the population comes from. Mm-hmm. And I think that any district advisory board needs to have some proportional representation as to the populations being served, and fairly as well.
I agree with that.
Well, I'd like to see those meetings start in February at the latest. I mean, even though we're in this situation, Happy Valley's still in the district as far as we're concerned. And so let's have the meetings. The reason I picked February is because January is going to be a busy one for us with the new administrator, interviews and all that stuff. But it'd be nice to have Don, you know, in his wisdom also be there before he leaves to give us some good advice on how we should proceed. Anyway, so thank you very much.
You're more than welcome. Thank you. Thanks for listening to us today.
Thank you. And Wilda, you have volunteered for so many committees. I don't know how you keep track. I have a drawer full of name tags from all those committees. That's how.
Everybody gave me name tags. They'd weight me down.
Right. Anna Hosley? Right.
Chair Bernard. Chair
Yeah,
Bernard.
oh, yes, Martha.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, this is Commissioner Schrader. I've been listening to this. I concur with how things are going. I am going to have to get off the phone, actually for another call, evidently, I have to be on. And I wanted to let everyone know I appreciate them being there for this discussion. Parks and open spaces has been a big issue that I've always been involved in the county. Again, I have another phone call I have to get on, and then this afternoon, and I concur with the consent agenda. I've read everything through, so I'm a yes on everything. And this afternoon, I will be seated as a board member of the National Association of Counties. So I am going to have to get off. I want to thank everybody that's come to testify, and thank you for allowing me to attend via phone on this meeting, but off I go to the next one. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And Anna, I have a question. Are you from the Hosley family that used to have the appliance company?
Yeah, yes. It's a big family. There are lots of parts, and yes, there were appliances involved.
Yeah, because that's where the light rail ends, where I remember the business down in kind of down in there, and I went to school with Virginia. Yeah. Anyway.
All kinds of connections. My name is Anna. I'm a mediator, a pastor, and a community organizer in Oak Grove. And I've been talking to constituents of Clackamas County about this, both Happy Valley and Oak Grove. And I appreciate your work and posture on this. And it appears I may be preaching to the choir, so I'll keep it brief. But I just wanted to share a little bit of what I'm hearing. One resident of Happy Valley shared that she really, one priority for her beyond the kind of broader implications is that she doesn't want her family to be siloed from the rest of her broader community, which she thinks would happen if this move took place. That the parks is really one of the last remaining area that provides cross-interaction across a more diverse community. Which I would second is just that in general is really incredibly important for a healthy society and a healthy broader county is that cross-interaction. So I think that's an important aspect. I think too what I'm hearing, this is a really significant move with really long-term implications. So I'm really happy to see more outreach for public input because I think broader voices, and you got at this a little bit, beyond key leaders really need to be engaged in this conversation. In the conversations I was having, I was hearing things like one resident of Grove who's kind of has an ear to the ground on this was saying she really doesn't think Happy Valley residents even know the possible significant implications of this move. And kind of the gravity of the county infrastructure that they have access to and the difficulty of reproducing that. This also was seconded by the Happy Valley residents I spoke to that the implications are really unclear to them. As are, I think, the park's response to some key issues. So as I talked to Happy Valley people, I understand that Happy Valley actually is underserved at this point due to their fast population influx. I'm not 100% sure about that, so correct me if I'm wrong. And that there was the public timeline on the county sites that there was a breach of agreement to build 4 park facilities. I think those things are kind of in the air, but it's unclear to Happy Valley residents whether there's a plan to resolve those or a timeline or what the response is to those issues. So it's just sitting there as kind of the major problem that they don't know the answer to. So I just want to affirm that that public outreach is really worth the resources to put into it and the energy to put into this conversation. And also just as a mediator from understandably the outside of this, it rarely ends in the best resolution when the discussion is limited to two very narrow positions, like in or out. And I have to imagine that there are a number of possible alternate resolutions that would be available to our people and should be available to our people, that we should know what kind of options C and D and E might look like to resolve some of those issues. I know some of that has been attempted, so I guess this is just an encouragement to keep trying, that's worth it to engage in that conversation and come to some of those alternate collaborative resolutions.
Great. Well, thank you for being here today, and this is your first time, so we appreciate you coming, and stay tuned.
Well.
Ken.
Yes, I'd like to ask Mr. Archer to respond to a couple of things that our guest referred to, the time frame for completion of projects being one of those issues, if you could.
Sure. So I think we're talking about the agreement with Happy Valley to complete a list of projects within an IGA, and that was based on a plan that went through the year 2030 in our capital improvement plan. So we were from 2007, when that IGA I think was enacted, or that when the capital plan was adopted, through 2030. At this point in time, we're halfway through that, or so, approximately.
But also, it was contingent on passing a bond measure.
There were, so a few things on that, thank you. Well, first of all, we completed the first and most significant project on that list, Hoodview Park, the biggest project in the history of the district. Secondly, yes, there were other contingencies, like when funding would be available for things such as through bonds being passed and things of that nature. That was mostly focused around a future community center site, which is a big project. The other projects are smaller in nature, and we were about to do one when we got notice that Happy Valley was withdrawing, so we held on that one. And the other one had to do with some agreements between the district and the city coming to a resolution about spending money on city-owned property, and unfortunately we hadn't reached a resolution there. But they were very achievable.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Commissioner?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Paul.
You did ask about the service levels, and I'd probably say from an ideal standpoint, the entire district is probably not adequately served, but I would probably ask that maybe you reach out to Director Archer and look at the current master plan. I think the most underserved areas are on the other side. The Oak Grove, Jenny's Lodge, parts of Milwaukee are the most underserved. But granted, I would probably say from an ideal standpoint, we're all underserved. I think we all want Happy Valley's growth needs as well, needs more areas served as well.
That would be great to have some in that public, like real hard information on, so you can see those side-by-side numbers relative to each other.
Master plan's a little bit dated. It hasn't kept up with Happy Valley's growth, but it does give you a better picture of what the service levels are.
Good.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we'll close the testimony and announce that the board will adjourn as North Clackamas Parks and Recreation Board of Directors and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners for the remainder of the meeting. And up front, next is the consent agenda, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's good to be back with you guys this morning. Under our Department of Transportation Development, we have an approval of an intergovernmental agreement between Clackamas County and the City of Molalla to transfer permitting authority and maintenance responsibility for a portion of South Ona Way, County Road 1303, DTD number 52003 to the City of Molalla. Under our Finance Department, approval of a resolution for Clackamas County supplemental budget less than 10% for fiscal year 2018-2019. Approval of a resolution for Clackamas County for budgeting of new specific purpose revenue for fiscal year 2018-2019. Approval of a resolution for Clackamas County for a transfer of appropriations for fiscal year 2018-2019. Under elected officials, approval of previous business meeting minutes and approval of a contract agreement with NAFTCare Inc. for medical staffing at the Clackamas County Jail. And under our Enhanced Law Enforcement District, approval of a resolution for Enhanced Law Enforcement District supplemental budget less than 10% for fiscal year 2018-2019. And that concludes the consent agenda.
All right, does any member of the commission wish to pull an item from the consent agenda?
No, thank you.
Martha's not on the phone, so we don't need to wait for that. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. And I made a mistake. Adopt. It's approve. I remember one time we got that A and A was an issue. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. With that, we're going to move on to county administrator updates.
Well, I'm going to curtail my administrative update for you, but I do have one legal obligation I need to do for you that I was not able to do last week, and I don't want to let this linger too much longer. But, you know, we did not have business meetings on November 15th and November 22nd, and during those periods of time, I did approve and sign several contracts. And I would just want to read these into the record for you so we can get this piece of business accomplished. We had five contracts, one through Health, Housing, and Human Services. This was approval to accept the award for the Opioid Affected Youth Initiative through the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. The second contract was through procurement for business and community services, and this was the approval of a professional service contract between business and community services and DECA Incorporated, doing business as DECA Architecture for a 3D design project, RFP 2018-70. The third contract was for water environment services through procurement. And this involved the approval of Amendment Number 3 to the engineering services contract between Water Environment Services and Murray Smith Incorporated for the Hoodland Modernization Project. The fourth, also with Water Environment Services through procurement, was the approval of a public improvement contract between Water Environment Services and Michael's cooperation for the collection system rehabilitation sanitary sewer main line. And then finally, for development and transportation via procurement, this was the authorization to purchase two Caterpillar 918M loaders from Peterson Caterpillar for the Department of Transportation and Development. Thank you.
Great. Now we're on to commissioner communications. Okay, who would like to start? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, in the interest of brevity, I will try to keep this as quick as possible. As you probably are aware, we just recently returned from a trip to China. It was an 18-day trip. What I can assure everybody is that it was extraordinarily busy. Days that started at 6 a.m. and oftentimes ended up at 10 or 11 in the evening, with a large number of meetings and many planes, trains, and automobiles. What I will tell people that I think is important about this is that the state of Oregon does $6.8 billion worth of trade with China. We have, in this state, a $2 billion surplus with China. And that is responsible, all of that is responsible for approximately 30,000 jobs in the state of Oregon. So maintaining the relationships that we have currently with different jurisdictions in China is critically important to the employment picture here in our state. In that vein, we either affirmed or reaffirmed or implemented 3 new agreements at the state level with the Fujian Technical College and Oregon State University, with Dongtai Municipal People's Government and the Oregon Sister State State Relations Council, and also with the Fujian Chamber of Commerce to improve and increase our business relationships. I don't say these things naively because I'm well aware of the difference between our form of government and China's form of government, but our economies are intertwined a great deal, and it is important to maintain those relationships and the employment prospects for our people, as well as the business opportunities for our businesses here in Clackamas County. Next item I have is just a report back. There's a survey that's done every year about volunteerism in the United States of America, and Oregon is number 3 in volunteerism. And I suspect our county comes pretty close to the top of the list in Oregon, given the 70 different volunteer groups that we have right here in Clackamas County and all of the work those people do for us. And finally, yesterday I had the privilege of going back out to the Veterans Village and assisting in the planting of the flagpole. And they this morning raised the colors at the Vets Village. So it was nice to participate in that little project. And on that note, I will go to the dogs, as they say. And here we go. This is Rudolph, but you can call him Rudy for short if you want to. He's a young guy who is in need of a German Shepherd savvy home. He can be nervous sometimes around strangers, so when you come to visit him, please offer a treat and a gentle hello. He will need a home that has no children and no cats. He knows some basic manners like sit and shake, but he has so much more that he wants to learn with you. If he sounds like a good match, he will be patiently waiting to meet you. For more information about Rudy and other adoptable dogs, please contact Clackamas County Dog Services at 503-655-8628 or www.clackamas.us/dogs. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Looks like he has good hearing.
Yeah, with those ears?
Big ears on
Yep.
there. Sonia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we put a time capsule in the ground, or we will almost have put a time capsule in the ground. We had that event this week, which brings to mind what's important from the past, what's important in the present, and what we want to look for the future. And we heard that testimony today about how incredibly important it is that as we grow, we preserve what is precious about Clackamas County and preserving our quality of life. I really appreciate the conversation amongst my commissioners about reaching out to our community to have these conversations, that we're all aligned in that. I had the wonderful opportunity of getting a beautiful slice of Clackamas County this last week when I went out and got my Christmas tree. Went out to Connor's Tree Farm and spoke with Steve and Rosie and really got a wonderful earful of the challenges and the joys and precious moments of running a Christmas tree farm. Just to share with my colleagues, disease has been an issue this year. This particular tree farmer had to lose 700 trees. Another area that we all know about is that there's a tremendous shortage of Christmas trees, so there's a tremendous demand. He had multiple calls from folks asking to take his 7 acres and just shipping them all out of state. And but nope, he was there. He was there with the people that have been there working with him for many years. And it was just a wonderful moment, because we think about the holidays, and regardless of how you celebrate the holidays, we do connect, we gather, we care about one another, and we share during this time of year. Looking very forward to our holiday potluck, which is happening after this meeting. So I won't belabor my communications too much longer, but I do want to let everyone know we did pass a housing emergency, quite a while ago, that is still in effect. So when the weather got cold, when it dropped to 33 degrees, we did expand and open our warming shelters. Spread the word. Please let people know to call 211 to know where the closest shelter is and what the capacity is. Currently, we have 200 beds available, and this is an example of our partnership with our community, with our churches, with our neighbors, with our friends, with our volunteers. We do this together. We do it when it gets cold outside, and we do it so that we can help our neighbors. And so that is what I'd like to share for today.
Thanks. Paul.
Well, I too will be as short as I can in the interest of time for our next little event that actually started 6 minutes ago downstairs or across the way. I do want to just say, in context of the discussion we had earlier, that one of our goals here at the county, constituted in our thing called SPIRIT, or the precepts, is build public trust through good government, and I think we kind of touched on that earlier today. And I think that's a bar that, or a goal that we don't just necessarily set and say we did it. I think it's a goal that we look at and see how we can do better. That's how business has been successful and people are successful. It's not about what we do today, but how we can do it better. On Monday, we attended the Oregon Leadership Summit. There was a great presentation there with regards to the American dream and how out of reach, or more so, growingly, farther and farther out of reach that is for younger generations, which has really prompted me, frankly, to become more involved in my 21 years, most especially the last 9 years being involved, and prompted me actually to run for this office. And it's sad to think that we, it's because of cost of living, especially in this area, and the cost of properties going up and rents going up, that it's not getting any easier. It's getting more difficult. And the other issue, of course, is the quality of life. It's been reflecting on Commissioner Fisher's comment with regard to the time capsule and crafting a message in there. Each of us, I believe, did that. It makes you go through the motions and the thought processes of what we're doing, why we do what we do, and how important both the quality of life and actually thinking about and considering making the future generations a better place, an easier place for people to succeed, and our kids and our grandkids and our great-grandchildren of the future. So I'd want to close with saying that the last 7 days, particularly the last 5, have been very, very positive and very difficult in the last 5 days. Sunday, we had the tree lighting in Oak Grove, the first tree lighting in Oak Grove, and it was first of all, it was a very community type event, and it was great to see a lot of neighbors and concerns. But I would say in the last 48 hours, it's been very, very challenging for a number of people in my community. So I won't touch on that today in the interest of time, but I want to say that be safe out there, and we look forward to continuing the discussion next week.
Great, and I want to mention that first thing, that we are all accessible. Call our office, set up a meeting. We meet in small groups, large groups, any group. And I think it's important. I think Ken mentioned something about China. You know, China, I was reluctant to go. I was very happy I did, because in the long run, success depends on relationships, and we have to continue our relationships. Last night I did the French Prairie Bridge meeting. We talked about, and you guys will see it, a choice of a type of bridge. And I mentioned that next year I'd love to see a meeting, a community-wide meeting, where we can just meet, greet, and talk about issues of importance, because we want Clackamas County to be somewhere in the future. Let's talk about where we want it to be. And it's kind of reminiscent of complete communities process that we went through. We went through that. Let's find out where we are now and where we can go in the future and what we shall be in the future. And with that, we are, Ken, I'm sorry, it's too late. Go ahead.
I had a failure of memory, and I need to give credit where it is due. The folks that put together the money and the work party and everything else to put the flagpole in at the Vets Village were VFW 1324 right here in Oregon City, and all of our county granges. And I want to say thank you very much to them for raising the money and doing the project. So thank you.
Great. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you.